Hollywood is full of examples of the quote, crazy woman, an uncontrollable, dangerous woman who's often equal parts mesmerizing and terrifying. Though in recent years there have been more nuanced depictions of women with personality disorders on screen, mental illness is a difficult topic to portray accurately in stories written for entertainment. And just as the label crazy is itself pretty offensive, there remain many problematic or reductive versions of this trope.
All you did was to destroy the dream of young women all over this country.
What, you think their dream is to get blown up? You got a really good shot at the insanity point.
But looking at how film and TV has portrayed the so-called crazy woman through the years can tell us a lot about what mainstream society sees as threatening and deviant, especially in females.
You won't answer my calls, you change your number. I mean, I'm not gonna be ignored, Dan.
Comparing a number of iterations of this character, we can see some common patterns. She's haunted by something in her past.
You're a loser, Susanna. Some people just don't change, do they?
No, they don't.
She's suffering from delusions, and her detachment from reality can make it hard for audiences to sympathize with her, especially because the screenplay frequently doesn't encourage us to understand her point of view.
You are completely delusional. I'm gonna have the cops deal with your crazy ass.
In fact, the crazy woman has long been villainized on screen. She's frequently portrayed as violent. And while her uninhibited behavior or unusual beauty can make her initially appealing to men,
I liked having sex with him. He wasn't afraid of experimenting.
eventually the narrative makes most characters regret getting mixed up with her. On closer inspection, this woman's issues are often caused by men, whether because someone hurt her, or because she's been more systematically oppressed by stifling gender roles.
She's not crazy, so don't say she's crazy. This woman cooks, sews, makes the bed, washes the bathroom. What the hell is crazy about that?
Fundamentally, this character is painted as a danger to the status quo and the family unit.
I don't want to lose my family.
Here's our take on Hollywood's idea of the crazy woman, the forms she takes, and how she's evolving in today's representations of mental illness.
I'm crazy. I'm a crazy person. There is something really wrong with me.
Broadly speaking, we can break down the crazy woman trope into 3 different types. 1. The obsessive woman, whose extreme violent behavior often casts her as a villain. 2. The woman having a nervous breakdown, who gradually loses touch with reality over the course of the story. And 3. The cool crazy girl, whose edgy nonconformism makes it seem appealing to be unhinged. Let's start with type 1, the obsessive woman.
You ever find yourself being completely smothered by somebody?
The obsessive woman is often a male nightmare of female craziness.
Don't leave me! Don't leave me! I love you!
Part of the crazy woman's power on screen is her ability to upset the social equilibrium. And one of the ways she does this is by threatening the family unit.
When your husband makes love to you, it's my face he sees.
Perhaps the definitive example of the obsessive woman is Glenn Close's Alex Forrest from Fatal Attraction.
Didn't you see Fatal Attraction?
You wouldn't let me.
Well, I saw it, and it scared the shit out of me. It scared the shit out of every man in America.
Married protagonist Dan's no-strings affair with edgy colleague Alex
No strings attached.
turns out to be anything but. In fact, Alex is the original bunny boiler. Costuming is used to cleverly signal Alex's insanity. As we become more aware of her mental state, her earlier highly fashionable 80s clothing gives way to a shapeless, white, straitjacket-like dress. When he meets Alex, Dan has the perfect life: a beautiful, doting wife, cute daughter, and successful career.
How long have you been married?
9 years. I'm lucky.
So what are you doing here?
So why would a man like Dan risk everything for Alex? According to male psychology expert Dr. Herb Goldberg, achievement-oriented, aggressive, dominant, success-driven males have a very low tolerance for boredom and passivity. The crazy woman keeps them on their toes.
And you're here with a strange girl being a naughty boy.
This partly explains viewers' enduring fascination with a woman like Alex. We like to watch her because we, or someone we know, would be attracted to her. But Fatal Attraction sends a clear warning to anyone who might be drawn to this dangerous woman, and in the process, it issues a damaging and regressive condemnation of the single working female. Alex, the unattached, sexually emancipated career woman, challenges the traditional family structure through her very existence.
I was running wiser that all the interesting guys are always married.
Well, maybe that's why you find them interesting, the fact you can't have them.
And it's significant that Alex's bitter end comes at the hands of another woman, Dan's wife, Beth, who destroys this unhinged challenger to restore her own perfect family life.
If you ever come near my family again, I'll kill you, you understand?
Moreover, in revealing Alex's carefully constructed, carefree persona to be false, the movie implies that the emancipated career woman who wants a different kind of life doesn't really exist. She's a mirage, lying in wait to trap a man.
I won't allow you to treat me like some slut you can just bang a couple of times and throw in the garbage.
The obsessive woman can also be fixated on another woman. This could be because she perceives another woman as a rival for the male gaze.
Then I'll be perished in the land.
Or it could be because she's lacking her own sense of identity.
Look, I'm not a psychopath or anything. I just want to be her friend.
Come on. Your password to your phone is my sister's birthday, for f***'s sake. That's like single white female shit.
In Single White Female, Jennifer Jason Leigh's Hetty essentially tries to become her roommate.
Everything I've done for you. Don't you understand that? The people you hated, I hated.
This person can also be devoted to an idea or powered by religious zeal.
Ho ho! Look what you brought out to play.
In Carrie, the protagonist's devoutly religious mother is so consumed with religious fear of sexuality that she psychologically tortures her daughter just for being a young woman going through puberty.
I can see your dirty pillows. Everyone will.
Breasts, Mama. You're called breasts.
Misery's Annie Wilkes is the nightmare of the angry fan.
I'm his #1 fan.
She takes her favorite author hostage and tortures him because she's mad that he's killed off her beloved character.
I know you didn't mean it when you killed her, and now you'll make it right.
The obsessive crazy woman is often portrayed as violent.
Now don't be afraid.
Even though in reality, violent women are the exception to the rule. Perhaps because the violent mentally ill woman is an anomaly in real life, she's particularly frightening in the collective imagination. As sociologist Belinda Morrissey states in her book, When Women Kill, the female killer is the embodiment of some of Western heteropatriarchy's greatest fears. Yet it's striking that, traditionally, Hollywood has turned this woman who's suffering from severe issues into an outlet for filmmakers or audiences' misogyny, and little more than an unsympathetic, one-dimensional villain.
So great to finally meet your mother.
What do you mean, finally? You just met me.
Fatal Attraction actress Glenn Close said of Alex and the public response to the character, quote, "She's considered evil more than a person who needs help, which astounds me." In fact, test audiences disliked an original ending where Alex killed herself because they felt she wasn't sufficiently punished. Part of the problem is that, especially in a fast-moving feature film, it can be a challenge to get most audiences to relate to characters who are delusional. As author Orson Scott Card puts it in Elements of Fiction Writing, we are terrified of people who don't live in the same reality as we do. A key step toward making this character less one-note is privileging her perspective. In the 1847 classic novel Jane Eyre, Jane's love interest, Mr. Rochester, is revealed to have a crazed secret wife locked in his attic. But the 1966 follow-up Wide Sargasso Sea and its film adaptations later tried to get inside this character's point of view, completely changing how we might view that situation.
Never make promises.
Why?
Then they'll never be broken.
In Gone Girl, the violent woman gets a chance to tell her side of the story, and while Amy remains fearsome, we're hardly encouraged to sympathize with the husband she's torturing.
And my lazy, lying, cheating, oblivious husband will go to prison for my murder.
In recent years, more nuanced, sympathetic versions of the obsessive woman are finally becoming mainstream. Lorna on Orange is the New Black fixates on a man she barely knows, who clearly views her as a Fatal Attraction-esque nightmare.
I don't know this woman, okay? We went on one date. One. She's a stalker.
But the show acknowledges that Lorna is suffering from a debilitating medical condition, which the actress Yael Stone has called erotomania, the delusion that someone is in love with you despite all evidence. Lorna's inability to face painful realities and failure to get the help she needs, especially after she loses a child, the kind of event that anyone would struggle to accept,
that's the kind of pain that a lot of people never recover from,
is treated as heartbreaking.
I'm writing to my baby. The father's keeping him away from me.
And when we first meet Suzanne, aka Crazy Eyes on Orange is the New Black, she is initially feared as the violent, obsessive type through the eyes of a middle-class white woman.
Because you light a fire inside me.
But that first impression is completely disproven as the show devotes time to the way Suzanne has been let down by a system that's failed to treat her mental illness.
Do I deserve to be here?
You deserve to be in a facility that can help you with your cognitive difference.
But I'm not. I'm here.
As well as to her many gifts and special way of viewing the world.
You're not dumb. You just got a special brain, like me.
She's also a notable example because on-screen explorations of mental illness so frequently overlook women of color. A second type of, quote, crazy woman on screen is the one who's in the midst of having a nervous breakdown. This story shows the character's journey into delusion, so we get more insight into why she's losing touch with reality. Crucially, this second category allows us to sympathize more with the character, in large part because her perspective is, in moments, comprehensible to us. Sometimes this Type 2 narrative lets us participate in the character's mind state, making it hard for us to tell what's real and what's imagined. Other good examples of this narrative pay careful attention to the sources of the woman's distress. John Cassavetes' nuanced A Woman Under the Influence makes us feel greatly for Mabel, played by Cassavetes' wife, Gina Rowlands.
Do you ever think of me as dopey or mean?
No, you're smart, you're pretty, you're nervous too.
As we closely observe her life as a neglected mother and housewife to an insensitive husband who's out of his depth and doesn't understand her needs, Rowland's performance subtly illustrates how her mental deterioration is a response to her claustrophobic situation.
Tell me what you want me to be, how you want me to be. I can be that. I can be anything. You tell me, Nikki.
A Woman Under the Influence also belongs to a powerful subtype of this genre, the woman driven mad by living in a man's world. One of the most classic examples of the woman losing her sanity due to male cruelty is Blanche Dubois in A Streetcar Named Desire.
I don't want realism, I want magic. Magic. Yes, magic.
Blanche's brother-in-law Stanley provokes her breakdown by sabotaging a potential engagement that could rescue her from dire financial straits before eventually assaulting her himself.
Well, there isn't a thing but imagination and lies and deceit and tricks. And look at yourself. Take a look at yourself in a worn-out Mardi Gras outfit.
Even Blanche's snobby affectations and vanity.
Would you think it possible that I was once considered to be attractive?
He looks okay.
I was fishing for a compliment.
Are reflections of how her society's gender norms have messed with her mind by conditioning her to be dependent on male attention and forcing her to repress her true desires under a front of Southern belle gentility.
You want a shot?
No, I rarely touch it.
In 1965's Repulsion, a woman is unable to function because she's so intensely afraid of men. The aggressive male attention that follows her is indeed menacing.
I had to see you, that's all.
And her paranoia is all the more understandable in light of the suggestion that she was abused as a child. In 2003's Monster, Charlize Theron's Oscar-winning turn as real-life serial killer Eileen Wuornos is gritty and terrifying. But it lets us understand why this sex worker is driven to murder her Johns after the extreme abuse she's experienced at the hands of men.
When no one could imagine the willpower it took to do what we do.
In 1944's Gaslight, Ingrid Bergman's character is psychologically abused by a husband who strategically plots to convince her she's going mad.
If I could only get inside that brain of yours and understand what makes you do these crazy, twisted things.
Gregory, are you trying to tell me I'm insane?
The film, which gave birth to the term gaslighting, exemplifies what film critic Emmanuel Levy terms the don't trust your husband genre. 1968's Rosemary's Baby is a later example where it might seem like the woman is going mad.
This is no dream, this is really happening.
But really, she's got pretty good reasons to be upset. Her husband has joined a bunch of satanic worshippers and has impregnated her with the devil's baby.
Come with us quietly, Rosemary. Don't argue or make a scene. Because if you say anything more about witches or witchcraft, we'll be forced to take you to a mental hospital.
Most recently, The Invisible Man follows Elizabeth Moss trying to prove she's not insane as her toxic husband continues to torture her seemingly from beyond the grave.
Someone is doing this to me. He's doing this to me.
You need some medication. Adrian is dead.
Another common factor in women having a nervous breakdown is aging. Sometimes the female midlife crisis story is merely a shallow condemnation of the villainous older woman whose stereotypical female sin of vanity makes her evil. But more interesting versions explore why aging is such a catastrophe for females in a society that discards women of a certain age. In Sunset Boulevard, which portrays Norma's obsession with chasing youth as grotesque,
Norma, you're a woman of 50. Now grow up. There's nothing tragic about being 50. Not unless you try to be 25.
the script points out how she's a product of Hollywood culture.
You know, a dozen press agents working overtime can do terrible things to the human spirit.
Frequently, the woman having a breakdown story leads to a larger commentary on what's truly crazy about her society. In Blue Jasmine, a modern update to Streetcar, Rich Jasmine's descent into insanity represents the delusions of the 1% and the elite lifestyle they'll do anything to protect.
I can wear the Dior dress that I bought in Paris. Yes, my black dress. Well, Hal always used to surprise me with jewelry.
In Ingrid Goes West, as the title character embarks on a quest to become real-life friends with an Instagram influencer, the story gets at the way that social media encourages us all to relate in false, unhealthy ways.
We were never friends because everything about you is such a lie. You just are some weird freak that found me on Instagram. Everything about you is a lie, okay?
She's crazier than him and more fearless.
The third type of, quote, crazy woman is romanticized for her devil-may-care attitude and uninhibited sexuality.
Have you ever done cocaine, Nick?
This character, who tends to be played by an extraordinarily attractive actress, comes across as cool because she doesn't care about what society thinks of her.
I'm Tommy's crazy horror widow. Mine is a horror thing for the most part.
Look at the modern interpretation of Harley Quinn. This beautiful, deranged woman has elements of Category 1's obsessiveness and Category 2's pattern of being driven mad by men.
Just like a bottomless pit of, issues.
But with her dyed hair, unique style, and backup squad of hot, angry girls and birds of prey,
Yeah.
she's portrayed as fun and aspirational.
I mean, how do I be like you? Well, except for the crazy part.
Number one, no one is like me.
Glamorous, beautiful sociopath Lisa, Angelina Jolie's character in 1999's Girl Interrupted, draws both the viewer and protagonist Susanna to her.
It's good to be home.
And even after Lisa's dark, evil streak is fully spotlighted,
I need an ambulance.
Make it a hearse.
she becomes vulnerable at the end, upset that Susanna has told her,
No one cares if you die, Lisa. Because you're dead already.
her beauty, vulnerability, and breakability soften her, making her more attractive than challenging to audiences.
I'm not really dead.
Around the time when Jolie won an Oscar for this role, the actress also played up something of a cool, crazy girl persona in real life.
Freedom is pretty to me, so yeah, things that maybe are dangerous, they make you feel alive, make you feel, free.
This Type 3 character represents an appealing level of danger to the status quo. She refuses to play by the rules, but she's cute and playful enough that the sense of threat isn't truly terrifying. And while her story might emphasize the gravity of her mental issues at points,
I'm just the crazy slut with a dead husband.
more often than not, it tends to resolve by making her feel relatable. Even in a film like Basic Instinct, where Sharon Stone's femme fatale is clearly a murderous psychopath, the audience is encouraged to focus more on the beauty and sex appeal that make her more alluring than alarming. The cool, crazy girl underlines how central sexuality is to this trope overall. Despite her fearsome qualities, the unhinged female character is frequently very attractive to men, with some going so far as to claim that this woman is automatically better in bed.
How come the deeply troubled women?
Yes.
You know, deeply troubled.
Right.
They're always the best in bed.
In the past, the crazy woman type has frequently been linked to any sexual preferences that were labeled as deviant or other. The very label of crazy woman is not only offensive to people suffering from mental illness, but also has very gendered connotations. Even the word hysteria derives from the Greek for of the womb, and was historically thought to be a purely female condition.
Who is it? An hysterical woman. Are you insane? I don't take calls from hysterical women.
In an article called "Men Really Need to Stop Calling Women Crazy," the Washington Post's Harris O'Malley writes, "Crazy is such a convenient word for men, perpetuating our sense of superiority. When women are too emotional, we say they're being irrational, crazy, wrong."
What are you, a crazy woman?
In the aftermath of the Me Too and Time's Up movements, women's so-called craziness and their desires to challenge and change systems that harm them are finally being perceived differently. Each time the crazy woman appears on screen, she sends a flare-up, helping us to see that perhaps it's not these women who are crazy, but the society they live in.
Girl Interrupted premiered 25 years ago and provided us with a totally new kind of exploration of young women's struggle with mental health in a world that is very intent on trying to constrain them, and the importance of the bonds they build with each other on their journey.
Was I ever crazy? Maybe. Or maybe life is.
Starring some of the biggest names of the era, like Winona Ryder, Angelina Jolie, Brittany Murphy, Whoopi Goldberg, plus a young Elizabeth Moss before she hit it big with Mad Men, the movie has become a beloved classic, especially because its story, in being of so many eras, manages to feel timeless. Girl Interrupted continues to resonate with audiences even a quarter of a century later. But what is it specifically that makes the film so impactful?
Crazy isn't being broken. It's you or me. Amplified.
Girl Interrupted is set in the late 1960s and follows the story of Susanna, an 18-year-old who finds herself checked into a psychiatric institution against her will after she intentionally overdosed in the midst of a nervous breakdown. The story is based on the real-life Susanna Kaysen, who wrote the memoir which the film is adapted from. The story is very of its era. Many of the struggles the young women face stem from the way women, especially young women, were subjugated in the 1950s and 60s as the fight for equality began to shake things up and scare the status quo. But it also felt incredibly relevant to the time of its release as well. In 1999, women were reckoning with new issues surrounding personal freedom and their place in the world.
You try to fit in, but you can't. Hurt yourself on the outside. Try to kill the same.
The 1960s were, in a way, similar to the turn of the century, in that both eras felt like moments of immense change in society and the power structure, and in which society attempted to contain people who did not fit in, or were seen as a threat to the existing order. In each young woman in the ward, we can see how being an outsider of any kind can erase much of your identity to others. Their individual personhood sanded away in favor of seeing them each as just part of a problem, or as solely a function of their mental illness. The stories that have come to define these girls are all essentially based around the most traumatic parts of their lives, or their mental illnesses as a whole. And we find many of these stories aren't even true. For example, everyone believes that Polly purposefully lit herself on fire during a breakdown, but it's later revealed that she was a victim of a house fire. But, as is often the case, the truth doesn't necessarily dictate what people choose to believe about each other, especially when it comes to people suffering from mental illness. Each young woman's struggle in a way represents an extreme version of things that so many young women have to contend with, and are judged harshly for. Swings in emotion, people thinking they lie about everything, self-harm, disordered eating, disobeying authority.
Social contrariness and a generally pessimistic attitude are often observed. Oh, that's me.
That's everybody.
In the 60s, the 90s, and even today, women pushing for more, equality, fair treatment for their voices to be heard, or just being openly unhappy with the way they're treated by the world, has been framed by some as a sign that they are in some way defective, and as something that should be punished.
Don't want to end up like my mother. Women today have more choices than that. No, they don't.
And in these girls' stories, we can see how they're functionally presented with the same two narrow options we often feel trapped between in real life, either figuring out how to be, or at least pretend to be, quote-unquote normal, or ending up ostracized forever.
Have you ever confused a dream with life?
Their freedom isn't necessarily based on actually getting better, but instead on just being able to feign the correct mindset, as we see with Daisy, who is released, even though none of her actual problems have been dealt with in any way that helps her, to disastrous results. The film has often been compared to 1975's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which is also set in the 1960s and focuses on the issues of psychiatry and institutionalization, with a particular interest in laying bare how nebulous the line between crazy and non-crazy people truly is, and how the distinction is so often dependent on who is in charge of making the decision.
What do you think you are, for Christ's sake? Crazy or something? You're not. You're no crazier than the average fall out walking around on the streets, and that's it.
While Girl Interrupted is focused on women, Cuckoo's Nest is from a very male point of view. The only main female character is the major antagonist. And while Jack Nicholson's Randall Murphy was incarcerated for harming a teen girl, in Girl Interrupted, we get to see the stories through the eyes of a teen girl herself. As a result of all of these differences, though they may share rather similar basic concepts, both end up with very different tones, points of views, and messages. Whereas Cuckoo's Nest ends with Murphy totally losing control of himself and his mind after he's lobotomized, Girl Interrupted is about Susanna successfully regaining her control. McMurphy's story is more analogous to Lisa's, unable to escape the cycle, but Girl Interrupted does give Lisa her humanity, and at least the hope of regaining some control over her personhood. The young women at Claymore Psychiatric Hospital have found that, because of the way they behave, look, and experience the world, that they don't feel like they fit into society at large, and others around them see having them locked away because of their mental health issues as a way to essentially permanently banish them from the everyday world.
You know, I know all about you, and I hope they put you away forever.
But here in this community, their outsider status isn't weird at all. In fact, everyone has something going on that makes them stand out, and often a pariah. Though they have very different problems and experiences, being together in this place does give them a shared sense of belonging and understanding, allowing them to form a tight, if sometimes tenuous, bond.
They were not perfect, but they were my friends.
They certainly fight with one another, and even use each other's problems as weapons. But we also see how their shared sense of identity in being crazy has allowed them to find a place where they feel like they can belong. Though, as we see, this can have its own drawbacks, which we'll discuss in a moment. But in a world where they have constantly been told that they're not normal or something is wrong with them, they can find comfort here in this place where that, in fact, is the norm. It also allows them to be there for each other in a way no one else, not even the doctors and nurses, can truly be. Susanna even turns down running away with her boyfriend, who's trying to avoid getting drafted into Vietnam, because she doesn't want to leave the others, in this place where she finally doesn't feel like the only crazy person in the room behind.
Them? They're eating grapes off of the wallpaper. They're insane.
They are. I am.
While their various mental health issues have hindered each girl's ability to control her own life to varying degrees, they've all also literally had their control taken away as they've been incarcerated in this psychiatric facility against their will. They've had to learn how to cope and survive in this new environment, living according to the rules of the nurses and doctors there, and not being allowed to make choices for themselves. They struggle with the fact that their ability to regain their freedom is seemingly based far more on their being willing to fit themselves into the accepted boxes and stereotypes for women of the time than anything else. And when they do step out of line, they're hit with intense, inhumane punishments like electroshock and isolation. Susanna felt listless and trapped in her life, and so attempted to end it because she couldn't figure out another way to cope during her breakdown, and felt like she didn't have any other options. But this led to her becoming trapped in the institution, where she feels like her options have been narrowed down yet again, and going in either direction feels nearly impossible.
Ambivalence suggests strong feelings. In opposition, you are torn between two opposing courses of action.
Lisa illustrates how this loss of control can lead to one attempting to wrest back control in increasingly destructive ways. She rebels against everything and everyone she encounters. It at first comes across as genuine bravado, but we quickly realize that there's much more going on under the surface. Her pushing back so often and so intensely is her attempt to stake out claim over her own personhood in contrast to the others around her and the institution at large. While Susanna has only just arrived, Lisa has been in the hospital for years, since she was only 12 years old. And so these are the kinds of coping mechanisms that she's had to come up with to survive both her life before and her time in the institution. She hits out at people that she sees as weaker than herself in an effort to prove to herself that she is strong and capable, so that she doesn't have to look inward and confront the truth about her own issues.
I'm playing the villain, baby, just like you want.
This is also likely a part of the cycle of abuse, with her doling out abuse very similar to what she likely suffered as a child. It can be easier to lash out at those closest to you when you feel like you can't actually hit back at the people or things that are really causing your pain. And Lisa continually has to keep up this aggressive, overconfident front, lest she have to truly confront the full extent of her issues, and the long road she has to overcoming them and really taking control of her life. The film deals with the idea of escape on multiple levels. Literal physical escape, escaping society, and escaping one's own mind. When they're taken out to get some ice cream, we see how this group of outsiders is treated by wider society, how they don't feel like they fit in this kind of world. And then the group makes a break for it and takes an unauthorized field trip to visit Daisy at her new apartment. Here we see how this isn't really an escape for any of them. While they're all technically out of the institution, they haven't left their problems behind. As Susanna eventually points out to Lisa, more than the hospital itself, she's trapped in a confine of her own making. Her abrasive, sometimes outright abusive behavior is a cover for her own fear and sadness that she doesn't want to deal with, a shell she's built up in the hopes that no one will notice how broken and alone she really feels.
That's why you keep coming back. You're not free this place. You need this place. You need it to feel alive.
Their mistreatment by society has trapped them in what feels like an endless cycle. They're ostracized, they fight back in a way that's deemed unacceptable, they're confined allegedly for their own good, and the cycle repeats itself. But Susanna realizes that she doesn't want to be stuck on this wheel forever if she can help it. Though it's not easy, she begins to cooperate with her treatment and comes to find that it does help her reframe things and open herself up to new options in her life.
I've wasted a year of my life. Maybe the whole world is stupid, but I'd rather see it than...
Even Lisa seems to find a new level of self-understanding. She's by no means cured, but she has opened herself up to seeing herself as more than just the worst parts of her, and accepting that she is a full person underneath who deserves a chance.
I'm not really dead. I know.
Valerie continually points out how important it is to not let yourself get stuck in or pulled under by expectations or limitations others put on you. If you're going to have any hope of building a safe, happy life for yourself, you have to find a way to keep moving forward, as impossible as that can sometimes feel.
Do not drop anchor here.
While everything isn't fixed in the end and wrapped up in a nice bow, the ending does still feel hopeful because of that forward momentum.
By the 70s, most of them were living lives, but there isn't a day my heart doesn't find them.
In the end, it's not about being cured and becoming not crazy, but instead learning to accept yourself for who you are and figure out ways to cope with this wild and sometimes painful world. Because as difficult as it can sometimes be to imagine, there is hope in the future, and it's important that we give ourselves the opportunity to get there.
Maybe I was just crazy. Maybe it was the 60s. Or maybe I was just a girl, interrupted
Crazy Ex-Girlfriend's Rebecca Bunch's story was about many things, but one of the most central was that idea from the title, the idea of being crazy.
No, I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy.
This is first just a more jokey part of her so-called crazy ex-girlfriend status, but over time she comes to confront and eventually adapt to deal with her very real mental health issues.
For almost 30 years I've known something was wrong, but mom said weakness causes bloating, so I tried to be strong.
Crazy as a descriptor has long been used to put down or discount people, especially women, and over the course of its run, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend worked to unpack this, to give agency and humanity back to Rachel in a way she never thought possible. So let's take a deeper look at how Rebecca reclaimed the idea of crazy and found ways to use it to empower herself.
This is all the weird and freaky and dumb and useless stuff that is my life and has led me to nothing.
It's not nothing.
The show begins with Rebecca doing a pretty over-the-top crazy ex-girlfriend move, literally moving across the country on a whim just to try to get back together with a guy she briefly dated at summer camp as a kid. The first season comically lays bare the catch-22 women often find themselves in. The expectation that they should do anything for love, but also need to be really cool and chill and like totally not that worried about it.
So you're saying that I moved here from New York and I left behind a job that would have paid me $545,000 a year for a guy who still skateboards? I did not move here because of Josh, because that would be crazy and I am not crazy.
What ended up making the show so interesting and relatable is that it wasn't interested in just presenting those kinds of rom-com tropes, but in really unpacking them and how they really affect people and their views of themselves. Through its blend of self-awareness and comedy, it's able to expose how unrealistic and often rather bizarre many of the romance tropes we're used to really are.
What's a girl to do when she's back here again? After so much growth, she's still stuck between men.
At first, the show's characters seem straight out of a familiar story. There's the career woman looking for love, the witty best friend.
I am your funny best friend with all of the answers. Okay, I'm your Judy Greer, your Rosie O'Donnell, your Joan Cusack.
The love interest, the stuck-up girlfriend standing in the way of true love, and the nice guy who might be a better match for our heroine. But the show makes each of these characters complex. They either don't live up to their assigned role or reveal themselves to be a totally different character than we first thought.
Oh, well, which one? Calendar, about me, FAQs, upcoming events, past events, or contact me. God, you're funny. What? Me?
In the same way, we see the characters encounter predictable rom-com situations that even they realize are artificial. So when Rebecca and her handsome boss are trapped in an elevator together, it comes across as self-aware, not contrived.
That's exactly what happens in rom-coms. Okay, good-looking people who hate each other but secretly have the hots for each other, they are always getting stuck in snowy cabins and bank vaults and the trunk of a car.
When Rebecca gets carried away by romantic fantasies, instead of playing into it like normal rom-com sidekicks, the other characters often actually express a much more realistic view of things.
So the moment you're craving isn't anchored in real emotion. It's a script dictated to you by our society's patriarchal love narrative.
While Crazy Ex-Girlfriend emphasizes the absurdity of these tropes, it also reminds us how much people buy into them.
Today, I'm gonna declare my love to a prince, and it's gonna be oh so romantic.
Rebecca's romantic fantasies started in childhood with princess stories. She grew up listening to the song One Indescribable Instant, which tells girls that love will solve all their problems.
What are you kidding me? No, it's for relatable instant.
Rebecca initially chooses Josh over her other love interest, Greg, because he says everything a fairy tale prince would say.
Look amazing. Like a princess.
The show works to analyze how gendered expectations can shape women's entire lives. Rebecca and her best friend Paula are still trying to fit their relationships into rom-com and fairy tale narratives in adulthood.
It's like you're Kate Hudson and Josh is this British actor that no one's ever heard of, but is super cute.
I kind of saw it as a fairy tale where I'm the spunky princess, Josh is the handsome prince who gets turned into a stone.
But what they've been taught to desire is so outlandish that they feel underwhelmed by real life.
They dance together at a ball, or they kiss in a tower, or they sail on a magic carpet. I just want to look into Greg's eyes and, have a moment.
And we see these romantic ideals have even taken a toll on the men as well, from the obsessive Trent to serial monogamist Josh.
It's normal to feel like this right before you get married, isn't it? Isn't it normal?
The show initially pushes Rebecca's fixation on Josh so over the top that she's almost a caricature, but in doing so works to unpack the truth about how her actions are the result of the world she was raised in.
You checked his Facebook 63 times today and his Instagram 18 times. You love him, you moved here for him, and you won't admit it.
The show's musical numbers find hilarious ways to dive into the very real problems that Rebecca is dealing with, including the sexist expectations that got her to where she is.
This is how you get ready? This is horrifying, like a scary movie or something, like some nasty-ass patriarchal bullshit.
The season 3 opening sequence confronts the idea that women are told to be obsessed with romance, but not emotional or possessive, crazy in bed, but nowhere else.
You don't wanna be crazy, and you don't wanna be crazy.
In a culture that is so romantically backwards, craziness and love seem to go hand in hand. And the show doesn't skirt around the very real problem of Rebecca's mental health.
I don't have an illness, I have a personality disorder. It's not something I have, it's something I am. This is what I feared my whole life. I'm broken.
She repeatedly chooses to pursue Josh instead of working on herself. This emphasizes that finding a man comes even before sanity in a world where women are taught to prioritize romantic benchmarks over their feelings. Rebecca believes that a woman's wedding day is the happiest day of her life.
This is what happy feels like.
So she's determined to marry Josh, even though they aren't ready. In her mind, to get married is to achieve romantic normalcy.
Josh will love me and then I'll never have problems again.
The show works to assess the way that women are taught to seek approval from men and make themselves small so as to never make anyone around them uncomfortable, and how that can lead to a buildup of pressure and emotions that can then erupt in unexpected ways. Josh's ex-girlfriend Valencia is humanized when it's revealed that she's been channeling her ambition into Josh, not using it on herself. And while Rebecca is accomplished, smart, and funny, she looks for validation in men who don't seem to deserve her. In season 2, she begins to dive into the source of this behavior, her rocky relationship with her own father.
Your father's behavior in the past has set a pattern for you. Seeking the love of men who don't fully love you back, men who are taken or emotionally unavailable, like your father.
The initial rejection by her father is what led her to try harder and harder to win his love. Rebecca blames her father leaving on herself, even though she was just a kid.
To be honest, as a kid, I was probably really difficult. You know, I'm a different person. So I really think this is the version of Rebecca Bunch she's gonna stick around for.
In this, the show explores the way that even young girls are taught to protect men's feelings rather than express their own. And she, for a long time, links her father's abandonment to all men, constantly having to live with the fear that they'll all eventually leave her, just like her father did.
He's not going anywhere, he's here for my wedding. You know, he's not gonna abandon me, just like you're not gonna abandon me.
Rebecca's turning point on her journey of self-discovery comes when she begins to embrace the term crazy.
I never want to see you again.
Fine. You're crazy.
A little bit. Before, she was afraid of and rejected what felt like a darkness lurking within her. She constantly lied to herself to the point of not even being able to admit that she did uproot her entire life and move to California just for Josh, or really the idea of Josh. To move forward in her life, she has to begin confronting reality, the reality of her life, her choices, and her inner self.
And now that I know what I have, I hope I can get the help that I need. But the truth is, I don't know what the future holds.
You know, for someone who's quote-unquote crazy, you sound pretty sane.
Stepping away from her laser focus on hunting down and capturing her rom-com idea of love eventually allowed her more space for introspection.
Those songs that you imagine, when you come back, you've always figured something out, right?
I mean, yeah, I guess I've processed some.
She comes to understand and accept that her mental health issues aren't just quirky little things, but genuine parts of a mental health crisis that she can't ignore forever. She also has to come to terms with the fact that love won't fix any of it. These things are just a part of her, and to overcome them requires her to work on herself. And though it isn't easy, she is up for the challenge.
So I'm here, and I'm ready to face it all.
She finds ways to express these parts of herself in ways that make her feel truly seen and allows her new avenues to connect with the people she cares about most.
I came to this town to find love. And I did. I love every person in this room.
In the end, she comes to realize that no label, crazy, perfect, obsessed, beautiful, whatever, should get to dictate her life. It's her story, and only she gets to decide how it unfolds.
When I'm telling my own story, for the first time in my life, I am truly happy.
The crazy ex-girlfriend is every guy's greatest fear. She comes out of nowhere, hell-bent on stirring up drama and ruining her ex's chances at new happiness without her. The pop culture version of the crazy ex can be terrifying, irritating, or genuinely in crisis. But countless movies and shows present this emotionally distressed woman without context as to the circumstances that got her there, framing her merely as an unpredictable liability and a problem that has to be eliminated. The crazy ex-girlfriend is a specter, sometimes even a literal ghost, that also haunts women, perhaps even more intimately, as they strive not to be compared to her.
I wonder what she's thinking about you, taking her husband and using her name.
The age-old myth of the distraught ex-girlfriend who desperately pines for or violently rampages against her lost partner reflects the belief that women are more codependent than men in romantic relationships, even though research shows no link between gender and codependency. And in reality, men are far more likely to resort to aggressive behavior after a breakup, so why is it that women are painted as universally responding to uncoupling with quote-unquote insanity?
You won't answer my calls, you change your number. I'm not gonna be ignored, Dan.
Here's our take on what the crazy ex-girlfriend represents and why she doesn't really exist at all. In the ancient Greek myth of Jason and the Argonauts, Medea, sorceress and scorned ex-wife, seeks revenge when Jason marries another woman by murdering the children they had together. The name Medea, derived from the Greek word for plans or cunning, establishes the long-standing idea that divorced wives plot to seek revenge at all costs. In the 19th century, the crazy ex again made frequent appearances as an unhinged villain with almost supernatural overtones.
My wife. My own demon.
In Jane Eyre, Mr. Rochester keeps his unpredictable wife Bertha locked away in a secret room, a harsh measure the audience is led to believe is necessary because she is in fact crazy. Before Jane meets Bertha, she thinks a ghost lives in the house, and there's likewise a spectral nature to the crazy ex, who's the title character of Daphne du Maurier's 1938 novel Rebecca. The deceased wife of the narrator's husband, Rebecca de Winter, at first seems like a beautiful ideal the new Mrs. de Winter can't live up to.
You'll never replace her. You can't replace her. No, he can't love you. Because you're not her.
But it turns out that she was a demonic, heartless, unfaithful woman who still haunts and torments her ex-husband and his new wife, even from beyond the grave. There's something universal about the image of a past lover as a ghost that a new couple wishes would go away. But another source of the trope of the crazy ex-girlfriend or wife you can't be free of lies in that pesky until death do us part marriage vow. Throughout most of American history, married couples who sought divorce faced long, arduous processes, given that obtaining a divorce often meant proving adultery.
You want a divorce? New York State, you need to prove adultery. I mean, prove it in a court of law. That's hard to do.
To simply be an ex-wife could mean you were widely assumed to be unfaithful or immoral. Moreover, women have not tended to be granted equality on the grounds for divorce. The 1857 Matrimonial Causes Act, passed in the UK Parliament, allowed men to divorce their wives for one act of adultery, while women could only divorce husbands who were physically abusive, incestuous, or bestial, as well as unfaithful. Being at risk of losing everything in a divorce, as ex-wives often did, could of course make anyone a little crazy.
And I'm not rich. Everything I had belongs to him. That's English law.
The through line between women who were branded as crazy exes in the past and the women who are branded them now is power. In the feminist prequel to Jane Eyre, 1966's Wide Sargasso Sea, author Jean Rhys imagines Bertha Mason's perspective and shows us a woman who's been horribly mistreated and cheated on.
Traitor! Fornicator!
To a contemporary audience, it's the unchecked total control Mr. Rochester has over his wife that seems threatening. Helen Small, a professor of English language and literature, writes that during the 19th century, tales of women driven to insanity by the death or treachery of their lovers were deeply ingrained in the culture's conception of femininity. Looking back on all this, we can see how the myth of the vengeful, crazy ex-girlfriend was a self-perpetuating one. Draconian laws that favored the husband's rights and governed women's bodies, and deep-seated, inescapable, untrue stereotypes caused intense moments and expressions of female frustration, which in turn have been used to prove that females are unstable and justify laws restricting them. So what forms does the crazy ex-girlfriend take in more recent and contemporary pop culture? The show Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is a nuanced and hilarious takedown of the way we so quickly jump to calling women crazy.
She's the crazy ex-girlfriend. That's a sexist term.
The first season shows Rebecca performing an extreme of stereotypical crazy ex-girlfriend behaviors, moving across the country to be near an ex she briefly dated in summer camp as a teen and trying to steal him from his new girlfriend, all while pretending she just wants casual friendship. But the show unpacks all the crazy ex-girlfriend tropes, like the lies, the instability, and the proverbial daddy issues, humanizing them through a vulnerable, likable central character and digging deeper into why an ultra-smart, highly educated woman feels compelled to act this way.
So you're saying that I moved here from New York and I left behind a job that would have paid me $545,000 a year for a guy who still skateboards? That would be crazy, and I am not crazy.
Rebecca's deceptiveness comes from the expectation that to win over a guy, she must constantly project a likable, relaxed, cool girl persona that's inherently inauthentic. It's not just in Rebecca's imagination that guys expect this. After she finally gets the magical night she's been dreaming of with Josh, she momentarily slips up and reveals just how badly she wanted to be with him.
I moved here for you. The second I saw you on the street in New York, I knew.
And her full-on expression of passion for him immediately puts him off and causes him to distance himself. In the next season, Rebecca realizes that her relentless drive to seek the approval of an emotionally unavailable guy like Josh stems from feeling abandoned by her father. So when Rebecca embraces being the vengeful, crazy, scorned woman at the end of season 2,
Josh Chan must be destroyed.
The transformation has an empowering aspect. At least she's no longer internalizing the blame for why men have mistreated her.
All these men, they are the ones to blame.
Still, Rebecca can't fully heal until she looks honestly at the deeper issues she needs to address. The word crazy in the title is a reference to the way we casually demean our exes by flippantly turning mental health issues into an insult. But this assumed stigma and rigid expectations for acceptable behavior from female partners exacerbate very real mental health issues. Rebecca battles severe depression and anxiety, is delusional and erratic, hallucinates when stressed, and is eventually diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. This iteration of the ex-girlfriend undergoing a mental health crisis is nuanced and moving, highlighting that women we label as crazy may be acting out because they are hurting or traumatized. In the end, Rebecca resolves her issues by working on herself, turning her musical hallucinations into expressions of creativity in the world and not centering a man in her life.
When I'm telling my own story, for the first time in my life, I am truly happy.
It's like I just met myself.
However, this happy ending isn't always attainable for ex-girlfriends who are genuinely unwell. For Orange is the New Black's Lorna Morello, a guy she's only been on one date with comes to represent all of her hopes, dreams, and delusions about romantic relationships.
She left notes on my car, she threw trash on my lawn, she left voicemails yelling about how I wasn't helping enough with the dog. I don't even have a dog.
Without Rebecca's income and status privileges, including access to good mental health treatment, Lorna's obsession lands her in jail, where her delusions just intensify.
Clearly your time in prison has done nothing to bring you back into reality, you psycho.
Morello is driven by loving an idea of love,
I deserve to be with somebody who loves love.
And the more that her life diverges, sometimes tragically, from her perfect dreams, the less she's able to accept reality. The mental health crisis ex-girlfriend shows how feeding women a traditional, restrictive idea of the successful relationship can be traumatizing, since life inevitably doesn't fit into that box. Her ex has moved on, but she's not even close to ready to see him with someone else. The jealous ex-girlfriend just wants to make her old boyfriend feel as terrible as she does, if only for a short time, and takes action in the form of mostly harmless pranks. But when stories align us with this character's perspective, her behaviors, however petty or childish, become almost universally relatable. Throughout Friends, Rachel seeks to destroy any relationship her ex Ross becomes involved in one episode manipulating Ross's new girlfriend Bonnie into shaving her head because she knows Ross won't find it attractive.
She said you gave her the razor.
But of course, the narrative situates us on Rachel's side, and ultimately uses this as a catalyst for Rachel to admit she still has feelings for her ex.
You're the one who ended it, remember?
Yeah, because I was mad at you, not because I stopped loving you.
Ultimately, the wild behavior of the insanely jealous ex reveals a person who is hurting. Unlike the relatively tame jealous ex who a narrative more often aligns us with, women like Alex Forrest, Amy Dunn, Madison Bell, and Holly Viola are genuine psycho exes. Devious, deceptive, reckless, and bloodthirsty. This cold, calculating, but deeply delusional crazy ex-girlfriend is determined to either have the guy all to herself or ruin his life if she can't.
To fake a convincing murder, you have to have discipline.
She often lures the unwitting man with the promise of strings-free sex, a cartoonishly heightened version of that faux cool girl, whose casual act gives way to a deadly obsession with possessing the central guy, thus fueling the cliché that all women are secretly desperate for male commitment, no matter what they say. In Fatal Attraction, after Dan Gallagher ends his affair with Alex Forrest, she calls him at work, stalks him, threatens him, boils his daughter's pet rabbit, abducts his daughter, and tries to murder Dan's wife. Gone Girl's Amy Dunn goes on an equally brutal but much more elaborate rampage after to punish her husband Nick's affair and his plan to divorce her by framing him for her murder, taking on a crazy ex-wife from beyond the grave vibe when he initially thinks she's dead. Amy's thorough dedication to details plays into the idea that crazy exes are master manipulators who play on their ex-lovers' weaknesses to hurt them post-breakup.
Meticulously stage your crime scene with just enough mistakes to raise the specter of doubt.
In stories like Fatal Attraction and Gone Girl, an affair, emotional callousness, and terrible behavior by the guy spark the woman's fury, in light of which Fatal Attraction's depiction of Alex as an unstoppable psychotic force was met with criticisms from feminist writers. But this character's just causes for rage are overshadowed by her extreme violent overreactions, making her the gold standard archetype of the irrational, jealous, dangerous ex that both men and women are conditioned to condemn and avoid.
I just want to be a part of your life.
Oh, this is the way you do it, huh? Showing up at my apartment?
Gone Girl examines this situation through Amy's perspective and actually originated the modern discussion of the cool girl act, specifically to explain why Amy goes off the deep end after her years of trying to embody her husband's fantasies just led to him trading her for a younger woman.
And found himself a newer, younger, bouncier cool girl.
It's in large part because of the persistence of stereotypes like the crazy ex-girlfriend that many women try to present themselves as her opposite, the cool girl, an exhausting performance that can lead them to tolerate mistreatment or repress legitimate anger during the relationship or as it's ending. And ironically, this may make it harder to process the usual breakup feelings in a healthy way and lead to more dramatic, crazy outbursts of pent-up emotion. The crazy in a fun way ex, frequently seen in comedies, is super bad for her ex-man, but he can't stay away. Toxic yet intoxicating.
Just need a second, it's Jane.
How's all that going?
We broke up. Oh, we're back on.
In Parks and Recreation, the only threat to Ron Swanson's stiff upper lip is his smart, sexy, and seductive ex-wife, Tammy. And though she's not a crazy ex, Claire from 30 Rock only needs one hookup in a few hours to set the fiercely independent business mastermind Jack Donaghy on a roller coaster she's driving.
Maybe Claire is right. Maybe if we have a baby together, things will calm down. I can't help it.
I'm under a lot of pressure, and Claire is my escape. She is like a drug. I crave her all the time, even though she's bad for me.
The fun Crazy Ex may appear like just a wacky stock character, but the way she strips males of their power goes back to the idea that women gain power and prestige through snapping up high-status men and blinding them with sex and mind games. Ted Lasso offers an update to this type in Jane, Coach Beard's constantly on-again, off-again girlfriend who sounds like that demanding, erratic, toxic presence.
Oh shit. 2 missed calls from her?
You're in bed! But once we actually get to see her with Coach Beard, is clearly the love of his life in a relationship that may be unconventional but works for them. All the Crazy Ex-Girlfriend examples who are framed as one-dimensional tropes are actually being misunderstood by the audience. This intentional misrepresentation also extends to real life. Journalist Vicky Spratt wrote in Refinery 29 that even Princess Diana was, in media treatment of her time, a particularly notable example of the Crazy Ex trope. She was regularly dismissed as bonkers for doing things like calling out the royal family or her ex-husband on national TV because he had an affair.
Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
To this day, this type of portrait can be used to discredit women in political and professional spheres. In fiction, this type of male power play is explored in works like The Girl on the Train, where the spoiler alert plot twist of the movie is that the female protagonist had been gaslit by her husband into thinking she was a hopeless, violent alcoholic.
You told me I got you fired, but I didn't.
You were fired because you were everyone in the office!
And all these examples illustrate how impressions are completely shaped by how writers or real people frame women in a certain light to make their responses to situations seem crazy. In Friends, Janice Littman is Chandler's annoying, overbearing, and crazy ex, reviled by all of his friends. But in the earlier seasons, he uses her, toys with her, dumps her repeatedly, and generally just treats her horribly.
One of these times, it's just gonna be your last chance with me.
Even if the women handle a breakup really well, sexist ideas about female emotions still haunt how their behavior is interpreted.
Barney, I just want you to know I have no hard feelings. It wasn't the best idea for us to get involved. I hope we can still be friends.
She's gonna try to kill me.
So can ex-girlfriends ever really win? And how are the emotions of male boyfriends and exes dealt with in film and TV? As much space as the Crazy Ex-Girlfriend takes up in Hollywood scripts and in the public consciousness, realistically, women are at far greater risk of being assaulted or harmed by a crazy ex-boyfriend. From Henry VIII's murdering 2 of his 6 wives, to countless headlines and true crime shows detailing the horrible deeds of vengeful men, the aggressive, unhinged ex-boyfriend is a very real phenomenon. For women in abusive relationships, deciding to become an ex is perhaps the greatest risk to their safety.
Why doesn't she just leave? It's incredibly dangerous to leave an abuser, because the final step in the domestic violence pattern is kill her.
Both the Crazy Ex-Girlfriend's and boyfriend's actions are guided by misplaced ideas about love and relationships that don't match reality. But the ex-boyfriend or husband's aggression represents a grave actual danger to the woman. The Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is a manufactured or imagined threat, a trope based on sexist ideas of the female mental state, patriarchal marriage practices, and written into popular movies for the sake of drama by men who can't see past their own self-centered point of view. This may explain why feminist reimaginings of classic texts and the music of Taylor Swift and Olivia Rodrigo resonate with so many women. Their songs don't shy away from the intense emotions women feel during breakups, but flip the familiar script by not giving the guy the last word, instead lending the emotional Crazy Ex-Girlfriend a real voice with nuance and without any shame about what she's felt.
I like writing songs about douchebags who cheat on me.
In past eras, a character like Morello would have been framed as just another Fatal Attraction copy, just as Christopher paints her. But today's stories are increasingly reflecting our interest in better understanding the complex mental health problems that underlie her destructive behavior. And recent female characters like Rebecca and Alexis from Schitt's Creek have shown us how a struggle with jealousy and negative thought patterns can be a catalyst for self-improvement. These more realistic depictions offer respect and understanding to the people on both sides of difficult relationship trials, and make it abundantly clear that the Crazy Ex-Girlfriend has just been in our heads this whole time. That's The Take. Click here to watch a video we think you'll love, or here to check out a whole playlist of awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.